Hello students, this is my 12th lecture on contemporary studies in English language in semester 2. In today's lecture we are going to study Direct and Indirect Speech Act, another topic in Speech Act theory, that is in unit number 4. So far we have studied J.L. Austin's Speech Act theory, Searle's typology of speech acts, and the next topic is Direct and Indirect Speech Act in unit number 4. This is another easy topic. You shall understand the concepts very easily. Now let me start. Now, direct and indirect speech acts. The distinction between direct and indirect speech acts is that of the relationship between the structure of an utterance and the intended function of the utterance. So every sentence or every utterance has some function to perform. Whenever the relationship between a structure and its intended function or meaning is straightforward, we call it a direct speech act. And whenever it is not a direct or straightforward relationship, we call it an indirect speech act. Let us understand this better with the help of a few examples. So what is it? What is direct? What is direct speech act? Direct speech act simply means when the structure of the sentence and its intended function has straightforward relationship. Intended means implied. Intended function. Let me give you examples. So when there is a direct relationship between the structure of the sentence and its intended function, then it's direct speech act. But when the structure and its intended function, the relation is not straightforward, then it is indirect speech act. For example, you change the flowers in the vase. Let me give you an example. You change the flowers in the vase. VASE is pronounced as vase. Now, this is a declarative sentence. So the structure of the sentence is declarative and the function is statement. Do you agree? I am writing short forms. Please try to understand them. So DECL stands for declarative. The structure of the sentence is of declaration and the intended function of the sentence is statement. It is a plain statement. Someone has made this sentence. Statement. You change the flowers in the vase. Another example. Do you change the flowers in the vase? Do you change the flowers in the vase? Right. Now this is an interrogative sentence. So the structure of the sentence is of interrogation and the function of the sentence is to ask question. Why do we use interrogative sentences? Interrogative sentences are used to ask questions. So the structure is of interrogation and the purpose of the sentence is to ask question to the listener. So there is direct relationship between the structure of the sentence and its function. Therefore, this kind of speech act is called as Direct Speech Act. Another example. Change the flowers in the vase. Change the flowers in the vase. Now, this is an imperative sentence. Imperative आज्ञार्थक. This is an imperative sentence and the function of the sentence is to give order. An order has been given to the listener. So the sentence change the flowers in the vase is an imperative sentence. The structure of the sentence is of imperative, imperation. Someone has given order to someone and the purpose or the function of the sentence is clearly understood. The function is to give order to someone. Imperative sentence always begins with a verb. So, in this sentence also, the relationship between the structure of the sentence and its function is straightforward. It is direct and therefore this is also a sentence with direct speech act. Now, what is an indirect speech act? In indirect speech act, the structure of the sentence is something and the function of the sentence is altogether different. That is, there is no straightforward relationship between the structure of the sentence and the intended function of the sentence. Such kind of speech act is called as indirect speech act. Let me give you some examples. For example, could you hold my bag? Could you hold my bag for me? Now, what is the structure of the sentence? The structure is interrogative, that is questionary. Am I right? Interrogative. This is the structure of the sentence. But what do you think? Is this really a question? Could you hold my bag for me? प्लीज माझी बॅग तुम्ही थोडा वेळ धराल का? अशा अर्थाचं हे साधारण सेंटेन्स आहे. बट व्हॉट इज द पर्पज ऑफ द सेंटेन्स? व्हॉट इज द इंटेंडेड फंक्शन ऑफ द सेंटेन्स? इज द स्पीकर रिअली आस्किंग अ क्वेश्चन? म्हणजे हे वाक्य व्हॉट इज युअर नेम या क्वेश्चनरी सेंटेन्स सारखं आहे का? इन दिस सेंटेन्स व्हॉट इज युअर नेम किंवा आपण मगाशी बघितलं डू यू चेंज द फ्लावर्स इन द व्हास. इन these sentences, in these interrogative sentences, there is a direct question. But here, do you think that there is a direct question? Could you hold my bag for me? Am I asking about your ability of holding the bag? No. Although the structure of the sentence is interrogative, the function of the sentence is of making request. या सेंटेन्समध्ये काय आहे? रिक्वेस्ट आहे. म्हणजे प्लीज होल्ड माय बॅग फॉर मी असं म्हटल्यासारखं हे सेंटेन्स आहे. प्लीज होल्ड माय बॅग फॉर मी विल बी a direct request, but here an indirect request is made to the listener. So when the speaker says could you hold my bag for me, the structure of the sentence is of a question. It is an interrogative sentence, but it is not a question in the real sense. It is a request, and therefore the relationship between the structure of the sentence and its function does not match. There is no straightforward relationship between the structure of the sentence and its intended function, and therefore this sentence has indirect speech act. Another example. Would you pass me the book? Would you pass me the book, or would you pass me the salt? Same kind of sentence. परत बघा, वाक्य प्रश्नार्थक आहे, पण there is no real question in the sentence. What I am saying is please pass me the salt, असं मी म्हटलेलं आहे. पण since English is a very polite language, many polite requests are made with the help of questionary sentences. So sometimes you will notice that in English structures, the structure is something and the intended meaning or intended function of the sentence is altogether different. बरोबर, त्याला काय म्हणायचं, इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच ॲक्ट. ज्यावेळी असं 1-to-1 रिलेशनशिप नसतं वाक्याचं स्ट्रक्चर आणि त्याचं फंक्शन याच्यामध्ये परस्पर साधर्म्य नसतं, 1-to-1 रिलेशनशिप नसतं, देन इट इज कॉल्ड ॲज indirect speech act. Now, you can find indirect speech act at several places, and you can find it in literature also. So, apart from such fixed strategies which are always easy to interpret, because of the frequency of occurrence of such structures with the associated meaning, the notion of indirect speech acts also refers to the use of language in such a way that the message communicated is not the literal meaning of the words. म्हणजे इंग्लिशमध्ये किंवा बहुतेक सर्व साहित्य प्रकारांमध्ये जे फिगर्स ऑफ स्पीच असतात, पोएटिक डिव्हायसेस असतात, सच ॲज मेटाफर, आयरनी एटसेट्रा. In these metaphors and ironies, indirect speech act is used. And being students of literature or those who know the language very well understand this indirect speech act very well. They understand the implied meaning. So, sometimes the speaker says a sentence, but he means exactly opposite of it. जसं की शाळेमध्ये गणित चुकलं की शिक्षक म्हणतात, वा खूप हुशार आहेस. हुशार म्हटलंय पण म्हणायचं काय आहे, द इम्प्लाइड मीनिंग इज यू आर डम, यू डोंट नो एनिथिंग. दॅट इज कॉल्ड ॲज आयरनी. लेट मी गिव्ह यू अनदर एक्झाम्पल. A boy says, Mom, can I go out to play? See the sentence. He says, Mom, can I go out to play? The structure of the sentence is interrogative and it is a direct question. So, direct speech act. So, someone says this and mom replies, it's raining outside. It's raining outside. So, A's question is, Mom, can I go out to play? The answer of A's question should be yes or no. You cannot go out to play, or yes, you can go out. But instead of giving a direct response to the question in terms of yes or no, B says, or the mother says, it's raining outside. Now, on the surface level, the response appears irrelevant, or the response is not a direct one to the question. But if you analyze the sentence B, you will realize that it's a direct response. So what does B say, or what does the mother say? The mother says, no, you cannot go out. You cannot go out to play. But has she said this directly? No, she hasn't said this directly. She has implied this. So, in this sentence, in B's sentence, in this response, the structure of the sentence is declarative. It's a plain sentence, but it is a negative sentence. That is, the response to A is negative. The mother implies that you cannot go out to play. But she has said this indirectly. Now this is called as indirect speech act. Or let me give you another example. A husband comes late in the evening and he says, "Sweetheart, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm hungry." And his wife replies, "I have cleared the dishes." Please listen to the sentences again. "Sweetheart, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm hungry." Wife says, "I have cleared the dishes." Again, the message is clear. The wife implies that there is no food left and I cannot serve you food. So, in indirect speech act, there is no one-to-one relationship between the structure of the sentence and its intended function. It could be different. It is always different. So, although the sentence appears as a questionary sentence, it is not a real question. So, this was the topic, direct and indirect speech act. We will quickly go through these slides. So, declarative sentences are sentences where subject precedes the finite. So, in this slide, you get to know what is a declarative sentence, what is an interrogative sentence, or what is an imperative sentence. Interrogative sentence is basically a questionary sentence which ends with a questionary mark. Then imperative sentence, it begins with a verb, etc. So this slide explains you the sentence structure. Then, what is the sentence function? So there are statements, there are questions, there are commands, etc. So any sentence which begins with a verb like close the window is a sentence of command. So it is a sentence primarily used to tell someone to do something. What is a statement? It is a sentence primarily used to convey information. For example, it is cold in here. Generally, statements end with a full stop. Questionary sentences are sentences where sentences are primarily used to elicit information, to get information. Are you in charge of the garbage? Who is responsible for the garbage? Etc. So, these sentences show these functions. Some sentences are plain statements, some are questionary sentences, and some are commands. Now, direct speech act. When we speak, we do mean exactly the same as the literal meaning of what we say. We make a direct speech act. For example, you close the window. Structure is declarative, function is statement. Did you close the window? Structure is interrogative and the function is to ask question. To know who closed the window. Close the window. Structure is imperative and it is a command. So, here in these utterances you will see that is there is direct relationship between structure and its function. Now, in indirect speech act, when we intend something which is quite different from the literal meaning of what we say, we make an indirect speech act. For example, imagine a friend comes to visit and you are busy finishing writing an assignment. You might say, "There is a beer in the fridge." As you said this, you are most likely making than just a statement. You may also be offering him something to drink. as well as suggesting he helps himself to it. So you may say your friend, um, there is cold drink in the fridge, there is a beer in the fridge. So what do you mean? What do you imply? Please wait for some time. You can serve yourself, and please give me some time to finish my work, to finish my assignment. Or when someone says, can you pass the salt? Here, he is not asking about your ability to pass the salt. That is the literal meaning of the sentence, but he or she is requesting you to pass the salt. So, direct and indirect speech acts. The chart shows you the structure of the sentence and the function of the sentence. For example, see the first utterance, the garbage isn't out yet. Speech act is request, direct or indirect? Indirect speech act. Could you take out the garbage? It's a request. But the structure of the sentence is a questionary sentence. Generally, a polite request is made with the help of please, excuse me, with expressions of please and excuse me. But here, could you take out the garbage? Is a questionary sentence, but the purpose is to make a request. Therefore, it is an indirect speech act. Would you mind taking out the garbage? Another request and again indirect speech act. Are you in charge of the garbage? Another request, indirect speech act. Please take out the garbage. Now see this sentence. Please take out please take out the garbage is a request, and this is a direct speech act because the structure of the sentence is declarative. It's a plain statement, and the function is also to make a request. So one-to-one relationship, direct relationship between the structure of the sentence and its function. Hence, it is direct speech act. I request you to take out the garbage. Another direct speech act where you find a request. So, this was it. Now, performative verbs. Um One way in which a particular speech act might be identified is through the use of performative verbs. That is, a verb which names the speech act or illocutionary speech of an utterance. Yesterday we saw this. I warn, I promise, I bet, I request, etc. So these are performative verbs. That is, with the help of these verbs, you perform certain action. So when you say, I promise not to be late, you really mean it, and you promise someone. So the act of promising, when you say I warn you of the dog, so beware of the dog, the speech act is of warning someone. So these verbs, warn, promise, bet, request, etc., these are performative verbs. They perform certain actions. Now, explicit and implicit performative speech acts which contain a performative verb are direct speech acts. For example, these sentences contain performative verbs. Therefore, they are called as direct speech acts since they perform their function in a direct or literal manner. Austin makes a distinction between explicit performatives and implicit performatives. An explicit performative is a sentence which contains a verb that names the speech act. For example, I order you to shut up. So, the act of ordering someone. The verb itself tells you what the speaker should do. So, it is an explicit performative. An implicit performative is one where one should understand what the speaker says. So, an implicit performative is a sentence which does not contain a performative verb. For example, shut up. Shut up could be an order, could be a warning, or it could also be an advice. So, depending on the speaker and depending on the context, It may mean an order, it may mean a warning or an advice. So in implicit performative, there is no direct verb which tells you what to do. In explicit performative verb, there is a direct verb, or uh, there is an explicit performative verb which informs you what to do. So this was the short topic. I hope you have understood it. There was nothing challenging or difficult in it. So let us stop today. I shall come up with my next topic tomorrow. Thank you.